Hey guys, always Dizzy here. I came back a couple days ago from the 2022 Langley Open. This was my first time at this tournament. I believe they've held it for maybe around 7 years or so, but it took around 4 hours or so to travel there. It takes the ferry alone is 2 hours, but then there's you know, loading times and then another hour to drive to Langley. Langley is like a little town of about 30,000 people to the east of Vancouver area. It was my first time to Langley as well. I stayed in a Airbnb, and I have a video about of that which I posted before this one. This was one section. This was one big open. They capped the number of players to about 100 because that's all that the facilities could hold. I think that is about it. Give me 1 second here. Yeah. Oh, I know what I want to do. So I think, yeah, so I just wanted to show a couple photos to make it more interesting. So the first night I went to a little Japanese place, which, as you'll see in future videos, I end up going to a lot because I like it. I liked it. It was really good service, and they brought me the food quick, and it was tasty. And I don't know. I ate there 3 or 4 times. I think 3 times. This was what I had the first night. Yeah, I had this the first night, I think. Um, and give me 1 second here. Just want to make sure this is the right one. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. These are the worst part. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm including this. And here's a photo of my luggage. Yeah, I actually wanted to start with this one when I started the video, and I wanted to say like, well, I'm back from my trip, but now it just looks weird because it's out of order. Okay. Anyways, enough of that. The reason I try to include this other stuff is because I don't know. I think it's more interesting, and just to show that a lot of chess players do travel to tournaments, and it's a whole thing. Okay, let's get back to business here. So I forget if I said this already, but my first round opponent was Riley Wertman, rated 711. These are CFC ratings, which are pretty much the same as USCF ratings, although you could argue that we are underrated here. And that's about 100 points below FIDE. But as you'll see in this tournament, you notice just how underrated a lot of players are. Yeah, my opponent was probably around 25 to 30 years old, if I had to guess. But I'm often bad at guessing ages. I was white for the first round. And yeah, okay, let's take a look. So I opened with e4. He played e5, knight f3, knight c6, and I played bishop b5. So nothing extraordinary to talk about. My opponent then played bishop c5, which is the classical Roy Lopez, and I castled. And then I was slightly surprised with my opponent's next move. He played knight to e7. Now, this isn't the first time I've seen knight to e7, but I'm not super familiar with it. Like I played against it online. I have obviously a repertoire built for it, but it's not so common. So I only see it maybe once in, I don't know, once in 100 games or 150 games. So it's not very common. It's basically kind of like it's got properties of like the Cosio defense, where the knight can often just go to g6 later. But that is the Cosio. There's not a bishop on c5. Anyways, I played c3, which is normally what I play against this. I think you can also play a4. I think the engine also likes a4 there, if I remember correctly. He played a6, and then I played bishop a4, fairly quickly. Now, I was slightly surprised when I analyzed it with an engine after the game that, and I shouldn't have been surprised, but more accurate would have been to take the knight here, because it's defending e5, right? This is the Roy Lopez. That's the whole point of why black played knight c6. So if he recaptures with a knight, so I have to remember how to do arrows in chess space. There we go. So so if I take the knight and he recaptures with the knight, I believe I can then play d4, and white just has a really good position. I don't think we win material if black plays properly, but our development is very good. We've already castled. We have a very strong center. So that would have been a little bit more accurate there. But bishop a4 is fine. White is still good here, but bishop takes c6 would have been more accurate. I just want to mention that in this tournament, I played a lot of low-rated players. And it's pretty frustrating because I traveled all the way to the tournament, and I spent a lot of money at to travel and accommodation and food and everything. And like this opponent, for example, is rated 800 points below me. What is that? 802 points. So if I win, I get at maximum 1 point. And if I lose, I'll lose like 32 points or something. So it's a lose-lose for me. If I win, I get nothing. If I draw or I lose a lot of points. So it was kind of like that for most of the tournament. And I think this might be the end for me. I don't think I'll play in another... maybe I will, but I don't think I'm going to play in another open tournament. At least not if there's 6 rounds. I'm planning to play in the Canadian Open next year, but I think there's 9 rounds. So I get more chances to play other higher rated players, unless I do terribly. Anyways, he played b5. I played bishop b3. This was a bit of a tough choice. It's always hard to know, should we go to b3 or b3 or c2. Normally you go to b3, but c2 is they're both usually good. It kind of just depends what you want, how you want to play it. But since he was low rated, I thought maybe I'll go to b3 because I might have tactics on f7. For example, bishop b3, knight a5. I think bishop takes f7 there would be pretty good, because after king f7, then I have b4. And I think that would be good for white. So I went bishop b3. He played d5. And this scared me, just because, I don't know, it's such a bold move to see played on the board. But after thinking about it for a little bit, it just looks like a mistake to me, because, well, you'll see what happens. But essentially the problem is it's premature. Black has not castled yet, and since I have a pawn on c3, I've got d4 ready to roll. So I took. He takes with the knight. And then I played knight takes e5. So this is often a thing that can be done in positions in the Roy Lopez when black plays bishop c5. White can take on e5, and then there's always a fork on d4 if we have the c3 pawn played. Actually, even without the c3 pawn in some positions. I think my opponent thought here... Well, no, actually, he didn't think that long. I mean, it was the next move. Yeah, so he took my knight. I played d4. And it's hard to tell, but I think he was actually a little surprised about this. Because he thought for a while here. And I don't know. Maybe he planned this out, but I I think he just didn't see the fork that was looming after, after d5, and then well, even here, I'm not so sure he saw the incoming fork. I think he thought I just blundered, but I'm not sure. Here he played bishop g4 after a fair bit of a think. I've got the score sheets here, but with the times, but I don't think it was too important to discuss how long he thought exactly. I played queen e1, and white is just better here. I'm up a pawn, and I'm going to get my piece back, and I have better development. That being said, black really compounded his issues here when he castled. I think the best move, what the computer suggested was just like queen e7. And now if I recapture, like if I take the bishop, he can... I'm not quite sure of the response, but the problem with what he played, castling, is that I can just take on e5, which is what I did. And now I have an attack on, I have an X-ray attack on c5, and I have a direct attack on d5. And he can't deal with that. He can't stop both threats. So that's really the main problem. And so I'm up a pawn, but I'm going to actually win a piece as well. He played bishop d6. I grabbed the knight. And he played queen h4, which I was fully expecting, because he's just down a piece here. He's got to try for something. Like, if I was black, I'd probably play queen h4 too. And now this kind of looks like some Marshall positions. In fact, it looks very Marshall-esque, except we're up a piece. That's the that's the main difference. But this is basically like a Marshall, but I'm up a piece. I played g3. Queen e7, and since I do know the Marshall as white, that kind of helped me play here without panicking or being too worried, because I kind of know the ideas. I played queen g5, offering a trade and attacking his bishop. He played queen e2, and then bishop d1. So he took the rook. He thought here for a very long time. I'm actually going to look at this one. So what, move 16? Yeah, he thought here for... Okay, well, 9 minutes? 9 minutes. But that's a pretty long time. Yeah, he thought for 9 minutes here, and I was kind of wondering, like, what's he thinking about exactly? And then he took the rook, which surprised me. But I immediately took back because it's the only legal move. And then he played bishop h3, and that surprised me, and I had a mini heart attack for about 3 seconds. Like, I got really scared for a second, because first of all, I wasn't expecting him to take on f1. And then once I saw bishop h3, I got really scared, because I thought, am I dead? Like, is this checkmate? But I was only scared for 3 seconds when I realized I have resources like bishop e3 or f4, f3 even. What's interesting is about 3 or 4 seconds after I had that scare and I started to just wonder what I should play here, my opponent offered me a draw. And it was kind of funny. I mean, because he's not a kid. Like, normally little kids will offer a draw when they're losing. But this is, it was just kind of strange. He's down a pawn and a piece, and he offered the draw. He's a new player, so he didn't really know the etiquette. But he offered me a draw, and I didn't say anything. It was my move, right? And when he didn't get a response from me, he then looked at me and said, "Did you hear me? Like, did you hear me?" And then I just said, "Yeah, I said I'm thinking about it." But for those of you that don't play over the board, yeah, you make your move and then you can offer a draw. But your opponent does not have to answer you, and typically they will either accept the draw or they would make a move declining the draw, signaling the declining of the draw. They're not excuse me, they're not obligated to answer you like, no, I will not take the draw, because they're able to think about it. They don't have to answer you right away. Anyway, I explained this to him later. I saw him in like the parking lot, and I mentioned this to him. Like he was cool about it. Like he was friendly. Anyways, it was just kind of weird because he like demanded an answer. Like, did you hear me? I offered you a draw, son. Anyways, after bishop h3, yeah, I played king g1. I actually thought here for a while because I was thinking, do I want to go to e2? I was thinking about going to king e2 or king e1. Sorry, king e2 or king e1. But I decided to go to g1. He brought in his rook. Bishop e3. I'm safe. He played h6. Queen d5. Played g6. And once he played g6, I kind of saw what he was planning here. Yeah, so I think when we played g6, I was sensing, no, it might not have been here. It might have been the next move where I really thought about this. So here I just played knight d2, just developing a piece. So he played king g7. Once he played king g7, then I realized what his plan was, which was, I suspected f5. Like f5, f4. Because if this bishop moves, it's mate in 2, right? If this bishop on e3 moves, this is mate in 2. So it's not a terrible idea to push the f-pawn. And yes, I can take with the g-pawn, but then his bishop can take back on f4. And I can't recapture because mate again. So I thought this was actually a very good idea from black. I played knight f1. And indeed, he plays f5, which was a really good idea considering like his rating and how he played in the beginning. This was a really good idea. So I was actually very careful because it's easy to screw up here and blow the game. So I was very, very cautious. I played bishop f3, f4. So yeah, I think he's doing what he should be. Bishop takes, and g takes, and rook takes. Unfortunately for black, he just has no pieces. So this is pretty simple for white. I just played bishop g2, rook f5, and I give a check. King f8. And you know, I had these like intrusive thoughts of like around here even of just like taking the rook for fun. Because I'm up so much material, like I'm just up a piece and a pawn, I think. Is it just one pawn? Yeah, I'm up a piece and a pawn if I do this. And I thought that might be fun. But that's just stupid. So, but it crossed my mind for like 5-10 seconds. Like maybe I just do that. And then same thing here. I was thinking maybe I just take one of these rooks and then we can have some fun. But that might also be misconstrued as like kind of being like a poor sport, or not a poor sport, but it might not be. It's not a nice thing to do. So bishop takes h3, rook g5 check, bishop g2, rook e7, queen c8. Just yeah, it's as simple as it looks. I'm just going for the extra pawn. I'm in no hurry. Queen takes a6, c5, d takes c5, rook takes c5, rook d1, rook ce5, rook de6. And I think it was around here. It was kind of strange. It was around here within a move or two, or it might have been this move. My opponent then leans in slowly over the board and whispers to me, "Do you want to play it out?" And that was I've never come across that before. And the truth is like, no, I don't want to play it out. I'm completely winning here. I just, let me go. I just want to go get lunch, which, by the way, is a bit of a walk. I mean, not that far away, but like 1.3 kilometers or something. But then I have to walk back. And so, I would have preferred to end the game. But at the same time, since he didn't resign, I felt that he kind of wanted to play on for some reason. So I just said, it's up to you, because it is up to him. But yeah, I would actually prefer he resigns, but I'm okay either way. He played h5, check, king f7, queen f6, king e8, and I think I missed a quick mate here. In the game, I played bishop c6 check, but I think there was actually a quicker mate. I think rook g8 and then king. Yeah, this is mate here. Yeah, because it's the bishop covers c5, so, or c6. But whoops, I didn't mean to do that. But I didn't see that. So whoops. Sorry. There we go. But I didn't see that, so I just gave a check. And then queen d6 check, king c8, and rook g8. And then here he resigned, which is kind of odd because it's like 2 moves before mate. 2 or 3 moves before mate. And it's like, well, why resign now? I might as well checkmate you, or why not resign like 15 moves ago? So, but yeah, again, it's like his second or third tournament, so it's fine. Yeah, so unfortunately he had a bad tournament. I think he ended up finishing. I think he got he did get 2 draws in his last 2 rounds, I believe. Rounds 5 and 6, he did end up with 2 draws. Yeah, okay. Anyways, what else to say about that game? That was so that was the first round. I beat a 711 provisional player. I'll gain like 0 to 1 points out of that. I always feel bad when like I waste my white on, if I'm playing somebody far lower rated. I would rather play black so that I have white against equal or stronger players. For me, it's kind of like wasting white. But I don't know. Maybe it's always like that, because it always seems like that for me. Like whenever I'm white, I'm always playing somebody much lower rated. Yeah, okay. Anyways, that is the video. That was round 1. I won my first round, and I will have round 2 for you guys. I'll probably publish that in about 3 or 4 days after this video, and then I'll keep doing that for all of the rounds. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for round 2 soon enough. Thank you.